Shalom, I'm Rabbi Eric, and I'll be reading from Numbers 28, 29, and 30 today. I'll be reading from the TLV version, but feel free to follow along on whichever Bible version you have handy. Chapter 28. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Command Bnei Israel and tell them to be careful to present to me at the Moedim my food offerings by fire as a pleasing aroma. Tell them, this is the fire offering which you are to present to Adonai, 2 male lambs a year old without flaw, as a daily regular burnt offering. Prepare 1 lamb in the morning, and the other lamb you are to prepare at twilight, along with 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour for a grain offering, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil from pressed olives. This is the regular burnt offering, initiated at Mount Sinai, as a pleasing aroma, a fire offering to Adonai. With each lamb pour out 1/4 of a hin of fermented drink at the sanctuary as a drink offering to Adonai. Prepare the second lamb at twilight with the same type of grain and drink offerings you prepared in the morning, a fire offering as a pleasing aroma to Adonai. On the Shabbat you are to present 2 flawless male lambs a year old, along with 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil, and its drink offering. This is the burnt offering for every Shabbat, beside the regular burnt offering and its drink offering. On the first of the month you are to present to Adonai a burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 flawless male lambs a year old, with 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering with each bull, and 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering with the ram, and with each lamb 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, a burnt offering as a pleasing aroma, an offering by fire to Adonai. Their drink offerings shall be, per bull, 1/2 a hin of wine, 1/3 of a hin of wine per ram, and 1/4 of a hin per lamb. This will be the monthly burnt offering at each new moon throughout the year. Also 1 male goat as a sin offering to Adonai, beside the regular burnt offering, is to be offered with its drink offering. On the 14th day of the first month is Adonai's Passover. On the 15th day there is to be a feast. For 7 days matzot will be eaten. You are to hold a sacred assembly on the first day. You are not to do any laborious work. You are to offer to Adonai burnt offering made by fire, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old. They are to be flawless. You are to offer their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah per bull, 2/10 per ram, and 1/10 per each of the 7 lambs, plus 1 goat for a sin offering to atone for yourselves. In addition to the morning burnt offering and regular burnt offering, you are to offer these, just like this you are to offer each day for 7 days, the food to be offered by fire for each day as a pleasing aroma to Adonai, beside the regular burnt offering with its drink offering. On the 7th day you are to have a sacred assembly, and you are to do no laborious work. On the day of firstfruits, when you offer to Adonai a new grain offering during the Feast of Weeks, you are to have a sacred assembly. You are to do no laborious work. You are to offer as a pleasing aroma a burnt offering to Adonai, 2 young bulls from the herd, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old. With each bull there is to be a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, with the ram 2/10, and with each lamb 1/10, plus 1 male goat to make atonement for you. In addition, you are to prepare the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and its drink offering. They are to be without defect. Chapter 29. On the first day of the 7th month you are to have a sacred assembly. You are to do no laborious work. It is for you a day for sounding the shofar. You are to prepare a burnt offering as a pleasing aroma to Adonai. 1 young bull from the herd, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, without flaw. With their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah with the bull, 2/10 with the ram, and 1/10 with each of the 7 lambs, as well as 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for yourselves. Also offer the burnt offering for the month with its grain offering, the regular burnt offering with its grain offering, and their appropriate drink offerings as a pleasing aroma to Adonai, as an offering by fire. On the 10th day of this 7th month, you are to have a sacred assembly. You are to deny yourself and do no work. You are to present to Adonai a burnt offering as a pleasing aroma, 1 young bull from the herd, 1 ram, and 7-year-old male lambs without defect, along with their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah with the bull, 2/10 with the ram, and 1/10 with each of the 7 lambs. Also offer 1 male goat for a sin offering, in addition to the sin offering for atonement, as well as the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings. On the 15th day of the 7th month, you are to have a sacred assembly. You are not to do any of your work, and you are to celebrate the feast to Adonai for 7 days. You are to offer a burnt offering by fire to Adonai as a pleasing aroma, 13 young bulls from the herd, 2 rams, and 14-year-old male lambs without defect. Their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah with each of the 13 bulls, 2/10 with each of the 2 rams, and 1/10 with each of the 14 lambs, plus 1 male goat as a sin offering besides the regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offering. On the 2nd day you are to offer 12 young bulls from the herd, 2 rams, and 14-year-old male lambs without flaw, with their grain and drink offerings, with the bulls, rams, and lambs as appropriate by their number according to the regulations, plus 1 male goat as a sin offering, as well as the regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offerings. On the 3rd day offer 11 bulls, 2 rams, and 14-year-old male lambs without defect, with their grain and drink offerings, with the bulls, rams, and lambs, the number specified, and a male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering, with its grain and drink offerings. On the 4th day, 10 bulls, 2 rams, and 14-year-old male lambs without flaw, their grain offerings and drink offerings, with the bulls, rams, and lambs by their number according to the regulations, and 1 male goat as a sin offering, and the regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offerings. On the 5th day, 9 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male 1-year-old lambs without defect, with their grain and drink offerings by their number as specified, and 1 goat for a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering, with its grain and drink offerings. On the 6th day, 8 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old without defect, with the bulls, rams, and lambs, their grain and drink offerings according to those numbers specified, and 1 goat for a sin offering, with the regular burnt offering and its grain and drink offerings. On the 7th day, 7 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs without defect, a year old, plus their grain and drink offerings for the bulls, rams, and lambs according to the number specified, in addition to 1 male goat for a sin offering and the regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offerings. On the 8th day, there shall be for you an assembly. You are to do no regular work. You are to offer to Adonai a burnt offering, a fire offering, a pleasing aroma, 1 bull, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old without defect, and their grain and drink offerings, with the bull, ram, and lamb corresponding to their number according to the regulations, and a goat for a sin offering, besides the regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offerings. You are to prepare these for Adonai at your Moedim in addition to your vow and freewill offerings, along with your burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offering, and fellowship offerings. So Moses told Bnei Israel all that Adonai commanded Moses. Chapter 30. Moses spoke to the princes of the tribes of Bnei Israel, saying, This is what Adonai has commanded. Whenever a man makes a vow to Adonai, or swears an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he is not to violate his word, but do everything coming out of his mouth. Suppose a woman in her youth vows to Adonai or obligates herself by a pledge in her father's house. If her father should hear her vow or her pledge with which she obligated herself, and her father says nothing to her, all her vows and every pledge by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her father should forbid it on the day of his hearing it, none of her vows or pledges by which she has obligated herself will stand. Adonai will forgive her because her father has forbidden her. Suppose she should marry, after her vow or a rash promise of her lips by which she obligated herself. Now if her husband hears about it, but says nothing to her on the day he hears about it, her vows will stand, and her pledges by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her husband should hear about it, and on the day he hears it, he forbids it, he thereby nullifies her vow and her rash promise by which her lips have obligated her, and Adonai will forgive her. Any vow or obligation of a widow or a divorced woman will be binding on her. If, in her husband's house, she vowed or obligated herself by pledge under oath, and her husband should hear it and say nothing to her, not forbidding her, all her vows and every pledge by which she has obligated herself will stand. But if her husband should nullify them on the day when he hears of them, nothing from her lips, whether vow or pledge, will stand. Her husband has nullified them, and Adonai will forgive her. Her husband may ratify or veto any vow or sworn oath to deny herself. But if her husband says nothing to her from day to day, then he is confirming all her vows and all her oaths that are on her. He confirms them by saying nothing to her on the day of his hearing about it. But if he nullifies them after hearing about it, he will bear her guilt. These are the statutes that Adonai gave to Moses, relevant to relationships between a man and his wife, as well as between a father and his young daughter still living in his house.